June 6, 1944, D-Day, the day the tide turned against Nazi Germany. Imagine a colossal force, thousands strong, storming the beaches of Normandy. Allied soldiers, American, British, Canadian, faced a brutal enemy. German defenses were formidable, machine guns, artillery, mines. The fate of Europe hung in the balance. Success meant liberation. Failure meant a very different world. D-Day was a pivotal moment in World War II. It marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany's reign of terror. The sheer scale of the operation was unprecedented. The bravery of the soldiers unparalleled. Their sacrifice paved the way for the liberation of Europe. But what if it had gone wrong? What if D-Day had failed? To understand the potential impact of a failed D-Day, we must first grasp the magnitude of Nazi control over Europe. By 1944, Hitler's Third Reich held sway over much of the continent. From France to Poland, the Nazi war machine had imposed its will. Millions suffered under its oppressive rule. The Holocaust, a systematic genocide, was already underway. The Nazis were ruthless and efficient. Their grip on power seemed unshakable. A successful D-Day was meant to break this grip. It was to be the first crack in the Nazi facade, a beacon of hope for the oppressed. But had it failed, that hope would have been extinguished. The consequences would have been dire, immediate, and far-reaching. D-Day was a massive undertaking, a complex operation with countless moving parts. Any number of factors could have tipped the scales towards disaster. The weather was notoriously fickle. A storm could have scattered the landing craft, leaving the troops vulnerable. The element of surprise was crucial, yet the Germans had been preparing for an invasion. If their defences had held, the Allies would have been thrown back into the sea. Logistical nightmares were a constant threat. Coordinating such a massive force across the English Channel was a Herculean task. Any breakdown in communication, any delay in supplies could have spelled disaster. The success of D-Day hinged on a knife's edge. The possibilities for failure were numerous and terrifying. Section 4. The day hope sank. Immediate repercussions of failure. A failed D-Day would have been a crushing blow to the Allied war effort. The immediate aftermath would have been catastrophic. Thousands of Allied soldiers would have been killed or captured. The beaches of Normandy would have become a graveyard of shattered dreams. The morale of the Allied forces would have plummeted. The public, both in Europe and America, would have been devastated. Strategically, the Allies would have been forced to regroup and rethink their entire approach to the war. The momentum would have shifted decisively in favor of Germany. The consequences of failure would have been felt not just on the battlefield, but across the entire world. Section 5. The Nazi behemoth, emboldened and entrenched. A failed D-Day would have breathed new life into the Nazi war machine. Hitler would have used it as propaganda, a testament to the invincibility of the German army. His grip on power would have tightened. The resources of conquered Europe would have continued to fuel his war effort. The development of advanced weapons, such as the V-2 rocket, would have accelerated. With the threat from the West seemingly contained, Hitler could have focused his attention on the Eastern Front, where the Soviet Union was already stretched thin. The war might have dragged on for years, with devastating consequences for millions more. Section 6. The Eastern Front. Stalin's gamble and a negotiated peace. The impact of a failed D-Day on the Soviet Union is difficult to overestimate. Stalin was counting on the Allies to open a second front in Europe. This would have relieved pressure on the Red Army, which was locked in a brutal struggle with the Wehrmacht. Without the D-Day landings, Stalin might have been forced to reconsider his options. Faced with a seemingly resurgent Germany, Stalin might have been more open to a negotiated peace. This could have resulted in a divided Europe, with the Soviet Union controlling the East and Nazi Germany dominating the West. The Cold War, instead of a clash of ideologies, might have become a direct confrontation between two totalitarian regimes. Section 7. A world at war: prolongation and the shadow of unthinkable weapons. Perhaps the most chilling possibility of a failed D-Day is the potential prolongation of World War II. With the Allies unable to gain a foothold in Europe, the war might have dragged on for years with no end in sight. The human cost would have been unimaginable. Moreover, the longer the war lasted, the greater the chance that more advanced weapons, including nuclear weapons, might have been deployed. The consequences for humanity could have been catastrophic. A world forever changed, forever scarred by the horrors of a war without end.